This is the Louie T Network.
I'm ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Louie? Yeah.
Overtime! So we head to overtime.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Sunday Night Football Overtime. Pittsburgh Steelers, Detroit Lions. Really good football game. A lot of mistakes by both teams in this ball game, but the better team won. The better team was able to overcome the mistakes that they made, and there were some coaching gaffes in this game by the Lions that came back to haunt them. We'll discuss those later. And again, you walk a fine line in this league as a coach, rolling the dice. You know, either way, you're going to be second guessed with whatever you do unless it works. Then you're a genius. When it doesn't, then people can second guess and they'll always take the other approach and play devil's advocate. Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate tonight. And we'll talk about some mistakes I think Jim Caldwell made throughout this game. But nonetheless, there were opportunities galore for the Lions to steal this game, to outright win this game. I mean, you look at the yardage that they gained and their ability to move the football down the field, and there is no excuse for them to come away with not a single touchdown on the night. That is inexcusable. But I've talked about this Lions offense this season, and I think it goes all the way back to week 3, I believe, versus Atlanta, if that's the week they played the Falcons. I think both teams were 2-0 going into that game. And you had the Golden Tate play, knee down right before the end zone, touchdown, then overturned and ruled not a touchdown, 10-second runoff. Lions lose at the gun, essentially. But I said in that game that the Lions defensively are light years ahead of this team offensively. Their offense is what's holding this team back. And if they could play better and more consistently offensively, this team would not be 3-4 right now, but rather 5-2, possibly 6-1 right now. But because the defense is trying its damnedest to win ball games by itself, and the offense just isn't holding up its end of the bargain, this team is sitting at 3-4 right now as we speak. And it's amazing because this was a team that started out the season, 3-1? I think this team was 3-1, with that only loss being to the Falcons, and that was a good loss at the time. I'm not saying that it's a bad loss now, but you looked at the Falcons as, you know, the team that represented the NFC in the Super Bowl, and they had started off the season 3-0. So you just thought, okay, Falcons, business as usual. That's a quality loss at home. But all of a sudden now, you look at this Lions team, and that's 3 straight losses. And, you know, there was an excuse built in before the bye. Well, we're banged up. You know, still missing a ton of players. And Matthew Stafford's not healthy. Golden Tate's not healthy. We're banged up. Okay. Come off the bye week. No excuses here. Got to find a way to win this one. And this game was here for the taking if you're the Lions. For the Steelers, this is what good teams do. I've talked about it with the Patriots. It's not always pretty. And the thing that's even more gorgeous about this win from the Steelers, because with the Patriots, when they win ugly, like today, for instance, you still don't have confidence, the utmost confidence that their defense is going to make plays and that their defense is really any good. Whereas with the Steelers, and I was actually having a Twitter conversation with someone a couple of days ago, and he asked me, was Jacksonville the #1 defense in the league? And I think it was that question was prompted by the Marcel Darius trade to Jacksonville. And I said, yeah, the Jags are the best defense in the league right now, but a close second, splitting hairs second to me is the Steelers. And you saw why tonight. I told you, I don't know if this Steelers defense has ever been this good, because they can hurt you at all 3 levels. Their pass rush is A1, and they when they dial up a blitz, it usually hits home. You got to get rid of it or you're going to get sacked. And then, you know, their linebackers, I already said, you know, even T.J. Watt is a freak athlete. You know, you see him get up in the air and get his hands on footballs. I go all the way back to week 1 versus Cleveland and him dropping in the flats. Was it a great decision or throw by Kaiser? Absolutely not. But him to go up the ladder and go get that football, that's exactly what he is as an athlete. Tonight, him getting his hands on the football over the middle of the field, getting a piece of that ball. Did you see how high he was off the ground? And that epitomizes his athleticism, and it fits right in line with Shazier and Bud Dupree and all of those guys that can run and that are extremely physical, that can get pressure with just 3. Did you see Javon Hargrave collapse the pocket on that 4th down by the end zone? Come on, man. This Steelers team defensively is unbelievable. And Sean Davis is a good young safety. I think that Artie Burns is coming of age right before our very eyes. I told you the biggest offseason acquisition came literally right before the season started with Joe Hayden leaving the Browns or being released by the Browns and making a beeline for Pittsburgh. I mean, that completed their defense to me. It gave them the one veteran that they needed. They didn't want William Gay as that veteran over there. They needed something better. They got Joe Hayden, and I think that's making all the difference right now defensively. And you look at this Steelers team, the way that they're built for the postseason. They're built for December. They're built for January. They're built to win a Super Bowl because they can play defense and they can run the football. And off of that, they have weapons that come crunch time like tonight. You can see, we saw the coming of age of another young guy, Juju Smith-Schuster. And I really thought that he'd be an afterthought in this offense at this point. You know, I looked at the offense and the way that it was constructed between Bell, Brown, Martavius Bryant, and all those killer bees. I said he'll be way down the list of guys getting touches. And with the whole Bryant situation now unfolding the way that it has, all of a sudden, to me, the biggest benefactor of that is Juju Smith-Schuster. And tonight was a coming-of-age game, and I didn't think he could run like that. I'm not going to lie to you. I killed him for his lack of speed at USC. There was one thing I always said about him. He's a tough kid. You know, he's a tough competitor. He's physical. He'll block. He'll go over the middle. He'll catch the football in traffic, take a shot if need be. But I never thought he had the ability to outrun defenders. And not to say that he was being chased by the fastest guys on the field, but look, you don't run for a 97-yard touchdown unless you have speed. He was being chased by 3 Lions defenders and not a single one of them, all of them, secondary members, mind you. Not a single one of them could catch him. Quandre Diggs couldn't catch him. The safety couldn't catch him. The other corner couldn't catch him. That speaks volumes to how fast this guy is. And so I've been thoroughly impressed with him, just as the Steelers have. And tonight, I think you're starting to see the makings of a young guy that is about to take that next step and really be a number 2 option to Antonio Brown's number 1. And he could definitely use a Robin right now because it's just been Batman at receiver, Batman at running back, and nothing else for the Steelers offense. You add in a Robin at receiver, and all of a sudden now it's going to open up the floodgates for guys like Eli Rogers. Maybe Bryant gets his act together and gets back into this offense. Jesse James and Vance McDonald, all of a sudden those guys become viable options because they're afterthoughts. You're not even thinking about those guys because now you're concerned with Brown and Smith-Schuster, and here comes a Vance McDonald for a 37-yard gain. Okay, that's what opens up when you get other guys involved that can hurt you. After watching this game, don't think for 1 second the Colts in a couple of weeks aren't going to be saying to themselves, we got to watch 19. Well, that opens up opportunities for 17. That opens up opportunities for 81 and all the rest of the guys that are out there. So this was a really good showing by the Steelers defense in terms of stiffening up when you have to. I told you, it's not about yards. The NFL is misleading when they tell you, and I had my man Sean Mack tell me today that the Browns are the 9th defense in the league, and it's probably based off of yardage. That sounds great, but are you keeping teams out of the end zone? Are you keeping teams out of the end zone when it matters? Because at the end of the day, you can go up and down the field 20-20. The Patriots have allowed teams to do that for years. I've been saying this for years. The Patriots would, when they were winning Super Bowl, well, hell, they're still winning Super Bowls, but that was the trademark of the Patriots. Under Matt Patricia, that's been the staple. Look, man, you want to go 20-20? Knock yourself out. But when you get in this red zone, we're gonna ratchet it up, put the clamps down on your ass, and force you to kick a field goal. And if you're feeling froggy and you want to go for it on 4th and goal, leap. You'll get nothing and like it. So, and that was the Steelers essentially tonight. They gave up over 400 yards of total offense tonight. You think they give a damn about that? No one cares about yards if you're not turning it into points. And I absolutely love the Steelers defense, and they're fun to watch. And you saw it, exactly why again tonight. But again, we're going to break it all down here on Sunday Night Football Overtime. I thank you for joining me. Of course, I'm your set man, Louie T. If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game over here. Yes, here on the Louie T Network. We are changing the game as we speak. So won't you come help us do that by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. If you're new to the program and you are in the chat discussion as we speak, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent and makes sense to the topic of discussion. That being said, I've got a number of different social media platforms that you see scrolling across the screen right now in that top right-hand corner that will allow you to stay in tune to what's going on here on the Louie T Network. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's YouTube. Turn on those notifications so you know what's going on here, what's really good. And all the links to those various social media platforms that you see before you are down in the description. Also, in the description is how you can donate to this channel. There's Patreon, there's PayPal. Those links also down in the description. And I promise there is a Patreon video coming at some point. Man, my weekend got busy fast and in a hurry and didn't get to it. But it's coming. Believe me when I tell you. But in any event, let's talk about this Sunday night game because this was a rather fascinating game. I'm going to start with the winners because that's what we do here. We let the losers worry about losing until the victors go to spoils. And so we'll talk Steelers football. They're heading into their bye week at 6-2. Arguably the best team in all of football. The Philadelphia Eagles clearly have something to say about that at 7-1. The Patriots are saying, hey, we're 6-2 too. Don't count us out. And these two teams will clash and butt heads at some point later on in the season. That'll be an epic AFC showdown. The Chiefs are saying, hey, hold on. I know this team here in Pittsburgh beat us, but we beat New England, and we've got a chance to get to 6-2. Don't forget about us as well. But for my money in the AFC, I think the team to beat may be the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we're going to talk about why tonight. And we're going to start on the offensive side of football because I told you last week, for the first time, I actually admitted that we're waiting on an offensive explosion that I don't think is coming. And I'm okay with that. I wasn't okay with that before the season started because I didn't know how good this Steelers defense was going to be. I thought it was going to be the Steelers defense that we've seen over the last 3 to 5 years that you felt good about certain aspects of their defense, but they were always banged up, and the secondary always scared you half to death. Well, the secondary is coming of age. Sean Davis in year 2, Artie Burns in year 2. They look magnificent. All right. But Joe Hayden, to me, is the biggest difference in that secondary. He makes it all come together. And so if he's able to stay healthy, which he hasn't been able to do for the majority of his career, if Ryan Shazier, who has been a madman this year, as he always is when he's healthy, is able to stay healthy, which he hasn't been able to do throughout the course of his career, if you're able to get guys to stay relatively healthy, and remember, they did a lot of this tonight. They did all of this tonight without Stephon Tuitt, who's another one of their exceptional defenders. This is a loaded Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and I didn't expect what I've gotten from them this season. And so I was expecting this offense, and we've always said, at least for the last 3 years, with the addition of Big Ten, when he first burst onto the scene, this is the most explosive offense in the league. And at any moment, you can get 35 to 40 put on your skull by this Steelers offense. Well, the problem with that is when you go up against a team that can actually slow them down and stop them from scoring 27 and 24 and reduce them to 17, 18, 20 points, all of a sudden now you lose the game because your defense wasn't good enough to hold teams down. Well, that's different. It's a role reversal with the Steelers this year. And so I don't think the offense is coming. I look at Ben, and he's not the same. That class of 2004, I think they're literally deteriorating before our very eyes. Eli Manning doesn't even look like a starting NFL quarterback right now. Some of that can be blamed on his offensive line. I just think Eli's washed at this point. I'm looking at Ben, and I don't see the same guy. I don't see the guy that extends plays to break your back on 3rd and 11. I don't see the guy that it doesn't miss that deep ball when he gets a receiver a step down the field in front of a defender and he needs to drop it in the bucket. I don't see that guy. He's overshooting open receivers down the field. He's missing shot opportunities. He's missing opportunities to make big plays. There were some throws, and every time I think Ben doesn't have it anymore, he makes a couple of throws that makes me say, see, it's still there. It's still there. You just don't get it all at once like we're accustomed to, but we get them in little doses, little instances of I'm not dead yet. That throw to Jesse James, I mean, there's a defender right there. It's a lot of traffic. There's another Steeler receiver right there with another defender. So there's a lot of clutter and traffic. He zings it in there and allows James to pick up an additional 25 yards on the play. That's a gorgeous throw. That's a Ben Roethlisberger special. That's classic Big Ben. The throw to Juju Smith-Schuster for the 97-yard touchdown, that's the Ben that I'm accustomed to seeing. When a guy's open down the field, you go pinpoint accurate in the box, breastfeed him, touchdown. I haven't seen that. We've talked about more misses down the field of open receivers with Ben this year than we may have talked about with Ben in the last 5 years combined in just 8 games this season. So you see glimpses and flashes of what this offense can be when Ben is not missing, when they're getting the proper protection, when the run game is working effectively, when everything is working in unison, but the flashes are too few and far between. But it was just enough, and it's been just enough this season. Just like it was just enough versus Kansas City. It was just enough in this game. It's been just enough throughout this season. Whether it's Baltimore or Cincinnati, it's been just enough this season to the tune of 6-2. Le'Veon Bell didn't have his greatest game tonight, but when they needed him, he stepped up. But the star of the show, the star of the night was Juju Smith-Schuster. The 97-yard touchdown, catch and run, phenomenal. And again, I didn't know he possessed the ability to do that. That was impressive. I didn't think he could outrun anybody to the end zone from that distance. So that showed me a different element to his game that I didn't know he possessed. That there's an extra gear there that he can tap into that I didn't know was possible. So that adds a little bit more of a dimension to his game and strikes a little bit more fear into the defense, because when I saw him get behind the defense versus Cincinnati, I'm like, okay, that busted coverage. It's not just speed or anything of the sort. It's just a busted coverage. But when you see a guy catch the football over the middle, he's got about 2 steps on the nearest defender, but they're in hot pursuit. And you don't expect that guy because you don't think his speed will allow him to score from that distance out. You're expecting somebody to catch him off the pace, and nobody could, and that's impressive. The 3rd and 2 to end the ball game, that just goes to show you how much they trust him. And that's the same play that they used earlier in the season to get him his first career touchdown versus the Ravens. So they went into the old trick box, and they went out and got a play that they scored on earlier in the season, and they worked it to perfection. We've seen more shovel passes this season than we probably have over the last decade combined. I mean, it's unreal how the shovel pass has really taken off. And you have the Kansas City Chiefs to blame for that. Their execution of it seamlessly and perfectly in week 1 versus the Patriots allowed everyone around the league to take a look and say, you know what, that's a really good play. We should put that in the playbook. We should put that in the game plan. And we've seen a lot more teams adopt that, and including the Steelers, and run it to perfection. Beautifully executed. Juju Smith-Schuster was outstanding in this game. 7 grabs, a $193, and a touch. He was outstanding. And to me, it was his coming out party on the national stage. Everybody got to see it. And now all teams that have the Steelers left on their schedule have been put on notice that you can't just focus in on 84. Now 19 is coming to the party, and he's got something to say. And if you're not listening, you'll pay. And so that's something that adds a little bit more of a dimension to the Steelers offense that they hadn't had with the Martavis Bryant situation going on and him not being as big a factor as we thought he would be coming back to this football team. So Juju Smith-Schuster really put himself in the mix tonight as a big-time weapon for this Steelers offense. Obviously, L.Bell continues to do what it is he does, which is just be consistent and use his running style to create mismatches and create fits among the defense. And he was extraordinary. Again, didn't go over 100 yards. The average wasn't great, but it was enough for him to help his team win tonight. And like I said, the Steelers did just enough to win this game on offense. Let's talk about this defense because that's where the game was won. That's where the game most weeks is won by this Pittsburgh Steelers football team, is on the defensive side of the football. They were extraordinary, especially down in the red zone. They gave up yards. There's no doubt about that tonight. They gave up a ton of yards to the Steelers on offense. However, they were able to buckle down when it counts the most, and that's in the red zone. And that's the biggest discrepancy between good defenses, mediocre defenses, and bad defenses in this league is in this league, you're going to get scored on. No one's perfect. But the good defense, the really good defenses in this league, they find a way to get stops more times than not. If they're in the red zone defensively 5 times in a game, a good defense may give up a touchdown once or twice. They're not giving it up 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. You're going to have to settle for some field goals. More field goals than touchdowns. A mediocre defense is going to give it up 3 to 4 times in the red zone. A bad defense is going to give it up every time. And the Steelers are one of those really good defenses where if you go into the red zone 5 times on them, you'll be lucky to get 2 touchdowns. You'll take your 1 and be happy. And the Lions tonight, they got none. They got in the red zone about 3 times, and they came away empty-handed. Settled for a field goal, went for it on 4th down twice, and came away with nothing. And so this defense was the difference in this football game. And it's just remarkable to watch because, like I've said before, they've got studs on every level of this defense with the Steelers. And it's because of their ability to affect the game at each level. It's what makes them so dangerous defensively. I mean, Javon Hargrave is a problem up front. All right. Stephon Tuitt, when healthy, is a problem up front. All right. Cameron Hayward, when healthy, a problem up front. They've got guys that can hurt you from the defensive line. You saw that on the 4th down play when they went for it and they rushed 3 and Javon Hargrave collapsed the pocket by himself, ran the center into Stafford, who had to throw the football off balance, was almost picked off by Ryan Shazier. Should have been picked off, and that would have been about a 95-yard pick 6 because he was gone. They weren't going to catch him. And he knew it, and Tomlin knew it, and that's why they were upset. But nonetheless, that was all Javon Hargrave. I mean, he's a stud. You get to the second level, you know how I feel about Shazier. I rant and rave about him every single week, and you see why every single week. To me, he's the modern new age NFL inside linebacker. Small in stature and size, but packs a mean physical punch and is as athletic as it gets, can run with any tight end, any running back, and hell, most receivers. Okay, his speed translates and transcends his position. So he's the new age NFL linebacker. Every team's looking for one similar to him. And I think Bud Dupree is good. I think TJ Watt's got a bright future ahead of him. Vince Williams is fitting in nicely with the rest of that group. And they've got a hell of a line. I told you, they've got the best front 7 in all of football. It's not even close for me. I don't even know who's second. But whoever is second, it's a distant second to the Steelers' front 7, the defensive front 7. And in the back half, I've already said that you're seeing young guys come of age in Smith, Sean Davis and Artie Burns. And then I told you Joe Hayden was the missing piece in that secondary. And Mike Mitchell gives them that veteran presence and a physical presence back there to round out that group. So there's a lot to like. And they've even got a guy in the nickel, and I can't think of his name, but he's number 31. He's playing his ass off. I've watched the Steelers every week this season, and every time I walk away from the game, I always say to myself, God damn it, that number 31 is impressive in the slot. And so you can't even get him in the slot these days. So that just goes to show you how much improvement you've seen from this football team just in a year's time. So They're coming of age defensively. You saw it tonight. They buckled down when they had to have it. They got stops. This is a defense that, to me, is built, if healthy, is built to compete well into January and potentially into February. That's how good they are defensively. And if this offense can just be a semblance of what it once was, this is a scary Steelers team moving forward as they get the win 20-15 over the Detroit Lions in week number 8 on Sunday Night Football. You go to the Detroit Lions side of things, and this is a disappointing loss, much like most of their losses have been this season. You walk away saying, we should have won that game. We could have won that game, but you didn't win that game. Why didn't you win the game? Let's start with the biggest culprit, the offense, because, look, you rack up over 400 yards of offense, you need to have more than 15 points to show for it, okay? Sometimes yardage can be misleading because score and context can dilute the yardage in a game because you may be down 14 late in the game and the other team's playing prevent defense and giving you everything you could ask for. You're down 17 and the last 2 possessions of the game net you a field goal and a touchdown and you cut it to 7, but they were giving you everything you could ask for in prevent defense, just trying to keep everything in front of them and making sure you got nothing cheap and deep and scored quickly. And so yardage sometimes can be misleading, but that wasn't what this was. I mean, all of the yards that they gained were in the context of a close ball game that was ultra competitive that this Lions team needed to capitalize off of, and they just simply could not. I mean, how many big plays did we see from the Jones boys in this game? I mean, Marvin Jones was outstanding. TJ Jones was equally as good in this game, and you had nothing to show for it. Absolutely zilch. Ebron came on late, and what could be his final game as a Detroit Lion. Nothing to show for it. And that's really disappointing because if you move it down the field, you get inside the 10-yard line. Hell, you get inside the 5. You were inside the 5 once, and the second time you were inside the 10. So you were inside the 10 twice, and you came away with nothing. And we'll talk about Jim Caldwell's decisions and how it impacted his team a little bit later on. But offensively, you've got, and I think this is where you miss Kenny Golladay, because I look around, and even though Marvin Jones is 6'2", and he can jump with the best of them, I don't know if he's a guy that you necessarily feel comfortable just throwing it up to in the end zone. I think you should, because the guy's got hops and he can go up and high point the football. He's shown you that already. He's made ridiculous catches since coming over to Detroit 2 years ago, or last season, 2 years, last season, same difference. But for some reason, once you guys get down there, it's like you go away from him. We know that Golden Tate isn't a big guy. He's a physical receiver, but he's not a big guy. You know, doesn't overwhelm you with size. The only receiver that you have that has that size factor is Kenny Golladay, and I haven't seen Kenny Golladay since like week 2. So I thought he would be back after this bye. I was wrong. So you're missing that big, and that's what Ebron was supposed to be for you, a big red zone target that could go get the football. You don't have that guy right now. You're missing that guy, and I think that's what's hurting you in the red zone right now, is the inability to either draw up plays that get guys in. I remember when this Lions team would run a screen down here, down in the red zone to Golden Tate, and they would score off of that, or they'd run pick plays and they'd score off of that, or they'd get it to Theo Riddick out in space and they'd score off of that. I remember this Lions team being pretty prolific at scoring in the red zone. I don't know what happened to this team and why they can't get it in the end zone. And I knew this was a problem early on. I remember the Giants game when they won 24-10, and I'm like, that wasn't that impressive. You get a punt return from your rookie out of San Diego, Agnew, in that game, and you only mustered 17. And I looked around and I said, wow, that was really lackluster. But the Giants were so bad it didn't really matter. And then it confirmed it for me when I watched this team versus Atlanta, and the defense went out and created 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 Matt Ryan interceptions. And this team really had nothing to show for those turnovers. And they still ended up losing the game despite the defense turning over Matt Ryan as often as they did. And I said, this offense has a problem. And that problem has continued. And one of the biggest issues is they still can't run the football. And I've watched the Redskins struggle, especially in the red zone, because they can't run the football. And I'm seeing the same thing with this Lions football team. The inability to be able to run the football consistently puts so much pressure on your quarterback, especially when you get in the red zone, because the other team doesn't respect your run game at that point. They know they can shut you down. They know they can stop you from getting in the end zone on the ground. So now they know, okay, they've got to throw it in here. And so it puts you in a position where you're one-dimensional down inside the red zone. And the best red zone offenses can hurt you in a multitude of ways. They can hurt you on the ground. They can hurt you through the air. They can hurt you with their receivers. They can hurt you with their tight ends. Their quarterback is usually mobile, so he can escape the pocket and score with his legs, or just extend. And you know, the way to score and be the most efficient in the red zone is to have a quarterback that can extend the play, make things break down, and that's how guys come open, because it's a condensed field. They usually drop 7 to 8 defenders when you get in the red zone, so it's a lot of traffic, hard to find spaces to get the football into, a lot of tight windows. You need a quarterback that can break those windows down and open them up and be able to get the football in there. And so you're struggling in that department because you can't run it. No one's afraid of your tight ends in the red zone. Your backs haven't been a big major issue and part of this offense in the red zone. And your receivers haven't been getting it done in the red zone either. So this is a Lions team that has struggled to score points, has struggled in the red zone. Matt Prater has been one of your biggest assets. But that's not going to win you games against good teams. You saw that tonight. Let's get to Dave, your head coach Jim Caldwell, excuse me. A couple of decisions that I thought really impacted this game. The first of which came in I want to say it was 16 to 15 ball game. 13 to 15 ball game, excuse me. That was a decision, or 13 to 12, actually. I take that back. It was 13 to 12 at the time. A field goal would have given you the lead. And at that point of the game, you've got to take the field goal. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can't get into your feelings and be in your pocket and be like, okay, we got all the way down here. We need a touchdown. It's one thing if you're going up against Brady or one of these quarterbacks that you're like, man, they might score 30 tonight. Early in the game, and you look around and you're like, I don't know, this is Brady. I don't know, this is Breeze. You know what I'm talking about. They put up 52 on your skull a couple weeks ago before your bye. You know what I'm talking about, where you look around and you go, I don't know, it's fill in the blank. We may have to score 33 to win tonight. Yeah, if it's one of those nights, knock yourself out 4th and goal from the 1 or 2 yard line. Knock yourself out. But this wasn't that type of party tonight. You're well into the third quarter and you realize every point on the scoreboard is going to be precious tonight. And you may be able to win this one with 7 field goals. It's not out of the realm of possibility to get your 21 in the field goal variety. So at that moment in the game at 13-12, you got to swallow your pride and say, hey, Matt, get out there. Knock this 22-yard field goal down. Yeah, that sucks. A 19-yard field goal or 20. That sucks. But you know, right? It was the right thing to do. Because at that moment, you saw where this game was going. You knew where this game, and you needed to take the points. And you failed your team in that instance. And what happened? Not only did you not get it 4th and goal from the 3, not only did you not get it, or 4th and goal from the 1, but then the Steelers turn around and get a 97-yard touchdown. So it really backfired and blew up in your face, because the thought process there is, well, our defense is playing pretty good. If we don't get it on 4th and goal from the 1, they're pinned up deep against their own end zone. We should be able to force them 3 and out. They got to punt us the ball. We'll get great field position, and we'll try it again. That sounds good. It sounds like good logic, but it backfired on your face. You take the field goal there, there's no 97-yard Juju Smith-Schuster touchdown. The whole complexion of this game changes. But let's just assume that they somehow, some way score a touchdown and the score ends up being 18-20. Well, guess what? Because you kicked the field goal, it would have been 18-20. And you had the football and you drove it all the way down there. And instead of you needing a touchdown because you're down 5, you're only down 2. And guess what you can do at that point? Kick a field goal, take the lead 21-20. Or how about this? How about this genius thought that I had? How about when you're down 20-15, right? You're down 20-15 with all 3 of your timeouts and a 2-minute warning. how about you just kick a field goal on 4th down this time around? Just a thought. Cut it to 20-18. You need one stop anyway, right? Right. Because if you don't get it, and I know the thought process is we're not thinking about not getting it. We're thinking about getting this touchdown. But if you don't get it, you still need a stop anyway, correct? So why don't you take the field goal, kick it off. Hopefully it's a touchback, 25-yard line. You get a stop. They punch you the ball again, and now it's Matthew Stafford late in the ball game, no timeouts, game on the line, which he supposedly excels at. And all you need is a field goal, and basically, once you get to midfield, Matt Prater's in field goal range. I don't know. It's just me. That's just my thought process. But in any event, I thought you blew it for your team tonight. Thought you were over-aggressive when you didn't need to. This was not a game where you needed to be over-aggressive. Take the points. It's a low-scoring defensive struggle. Take the points. You only be over-aggressive and err on the side of aggression when you're playing against a team that you know can ratchet up the points and you know we need to score or else. That was not this game. Thought you allowed the moment to be too big for you in that situation. You went for it on 4th down too many times in this game. And I've always been a proponent. Scare money don't make money. I rarely beat up coaches for being over-aggressive. But in this case, it wasn't necessary. It wasn't. But the struggles of this Lions offense continues. And if this Lions season goes sideways, it'll be because of the offense. I said that, a month ago against the Lions? I stick to that. And nothing's changed since then. Still a team struggling to score. When you beat Minnesota, I said, wow, that was ugly. They had nobody. They lost their running back. They got Case Keenum. They're struggling. And all you could muster was 14. That's a good Vikings defense, granted. But your offense has been struggling. In any event, the defense, I feel bad for them. I could say that about 4 to 5 defenses this year where I'm like, man, if only your offense were better because you're a playoff caliber defense. This defense in Detroit, playoff caliber defense. Their run defense is among the best in the league. I watched it, and this was before we realized Carolina's run game was garbage. I remember watching them, and Jonathan Stewart had 15 carries for 21 yards, and I'm like, whoa, damn, it's impressive. And I remember watching them shut teams down on the ground and saying, wow, this is a really good Detroit Lions defense. Then they had a little bit of a struggle period where Jared Davis went out of the lineup and they weren't as good defensively. And then he comes back, and I look at this defense, and I was a little disappointed in them in the Carolina game and how they had some busted coverages and the Panthers were able to throw it on them as effectively as they did. But I still think this is a really good Lions defense. And the thing I like about them is they create turnovers. They can get after your quarterback. Zettel has been a revelation this season for them. Ziggy Ansah starting to get back to getting to the quarterback. A'Shawn Robinson starting to come on. There's a lot to like about this Lions defense. The secondary, I think, is improved. Big Play Slay plays up to his name these days. He did have the big PI late, and it was pass interference. You saw him grab the man's hand, but nonetheless, he's outstanding. I like Quandre Diggs. Glover Quinn is playing as well as any safety in the league right now. And so you look around that Lions secondary and you say, man, they've got some players. This is a good Lions defense. They deserve better. They do. They really deserve better. This Lions football team shouldn't be sub 500 right now, but because of the defense doing what it is they do week in, week out, but the offense letting them down. Hell, if it weren't for special teams, this team might be worse than 3-4. And when I say special teams, not only am I talking about Jamal Agnew, I'm also talking about Prater and his ability to boom it from 50 plus. I mean, this team could really be in some trouble, without the ability to kick field goals the way that they have this season. So special teams and defense have really been outstanding for this Lions football team. It's the offense, to me, that's really holding this team back. And the defense showed again tonight, limiting Le'Veon Bell to under 80 yards rushing. Ben Roethlisberger did go over 300 yards passing, but 97, essentially a C note of that came on one play. I mean, Ben was not as sharp as tonight. They did pick Ben off once. They were able to create some turnovers. I think they picked Ben off once. If they didn't, they they did pick Ben off once, and they created a couple of fumbles. Le'Veon Bell had a big fumble down inside the red zone. They were able to create turnovers. This defense creates turnovers, and the offense just doesn't do anything with them. And it's frustrating because, like I said, I could say this about 4 or 5 teams this season. If only your offense was better, because this is a playoff caliber defense, and the Lions fit into that discussion. It's a shame because defensively, this is a good football team. They showed it again tonight, but the offense they're not good enough. They're just not good enough. And so they lose this game 20-15. Drop to 3-4 in the season. And this is a perfect opportunity for them to try to win this division. With no Aaron Rodgers, this is a golden opportunity for them to get over 500 and get right back into the swing of things in the NFC North. You drop this one now with the Vikings playing the way that they're playing, it's not looking good for this Lions football team right now. Let's get to some comments, though. See what we got. Dre True Statement says, you think with all the stuff that went on with Bryant in the performance by Schuster pretty much seals the deal on Bryant's spot? I don't think that Martavis Bryant will ever be the number 2 option in Pittsburgh again after his whole ordeal. I truly believe the Steelers when they say they're not dealing him, unless someone just absolutely floors them with an offer to get and I don't think anyone's going to do that because of his track record. Because he's been suspended twice, and because the next suspension is indefinitely, and because he had this outburst with the Steelers, I don't think anyone's going to give up what it would take for the Steelers to say, okay, we're listening now. So I take the Steelers at face value. I take them on their word. They're not trading him. So I think he's going to be around. I think he's going to be a contributor, but he'll never be in favor the way that he was prior to the suspension, the first one. He'll never be that guy in Pittsburgh again. I think it's pretty safe to say Juju Smith-Schuster is the second option in Pittsburgh right now, and Ben's looking for him. So, yeah, I think when it's all said and done, Juju Smith-Schuster is the second option at receiver right now. BE says, 10-2 going into Monday Night Football, 4 straight weeks. The crown is mine now. I will share with anyone that's yet to be decided. Yeah, this was another easy week. You know, for the second straight week, I went to Sunday Night Football with house money. I already had double-digit wins. I told you, it's going to get a lot easier because we start to realize who the good teams are. Now, obviously, there were some games that came down to the wire. You know, the Jets and the Falcons, the Texans and the Seahawks. There were some games that were up in the air, the Bengals and the Colts. There were some coin flip games, obviously. Saints and Bears came down to the wire as well. A lot of games were close, but we're at the point of the season now where you should be able to figure out who's going to win. You know, you can come as close as you want, but keep on knocking, but you can't come in. You can't get the win. And so we're at that point now. We're 8 weeks in. You should, if you've been watching the league close enough, you should be able to determine who's going to find a way to get it done. Ginger Callum says, 9-3 at the moment. Shame I changed Ravens to Dolphins last second. It happens. Ginger Callum also says, can't believe I didn't back my Steelers either. Really? You didn't pick the Steelers tonight? What is wrong with you? That is insane. The Lions aren't good enough for you to feel like you couldn't go in there and win? Yeah, that's you get the shame. Shame! Mondraw says, this game was somewhat refreshing to see the Lions taking that ball down the field and finally letting Stafford do what he does best. That red zone offense is just, it is. And they got to fix it. They've still got a shot because their defense plays. So they're going to be in ball games every week. And if they can find a way to start scoring some points, this is a dangerous Lions football team. But if they can't score, this is going to be the story for this team in 2017. And it's going to be what you look back on when the season's done and say, man, we could have, should have, would have, but didn't because the offense. Livewire Red B says, only the Lions can lose a game like that, Lou. They had so many opportunities to put that game away. Put the game away, I wouldn't go as far as to say that because putting the game away would mean that they were ahead and all they had to do was finish off the Steelers. They had so many opportunities to win the game. So I agree from that standpoint. They had numerous opportunities to try and put the Steelers in a really tough spot because all night long the Steelers were playing from a position of advantage. We could use a touchdown, but we don't have to have it. That's how they were playing all night. They never were once in a position where they were down by enough points to where we got to have it. They were always within striking distance, and a field goal was always good enough. Until they got the Juju Smith-Schuster touchdown, they were cool with kicking field goals. You know, they had a couple of touchdowns, and they had the field goals in this game. And they were cool with that because they were never at a point where they needed touchdowns. They were like, hey, if we got to settle for a field goal, we can do that. We can do that. And the Lions had opportunities to put them in a position where they had to score a touchdown. And I don't know if the Steelers would have been able to do that had they needed to score a touchdown, but they didn't. Cloud says, you think the Steelers will trade Bryant due to Juju's performance? I don't think they'll trade. Sean Mack says, Browns are 6th against the run, 16th against the pass, 24th in points per game at 24. Total makes us 9th overall. If only our offense and Jackson get their heads out of their ass, we'd have a few W's. Yeah. You can say that about a lot of teams, man. I go back to that same point. There are a lot of teams playing some quality defense, and their offense is just letting them down week after week after week. Sean Mack says, I told you, BE, B3, AK, Lab Room fam last season that overall Ben, Eli, Phillip are on the decline. They had a hell of a run, one of the best QB classes ever. I think that's a fact now. I watched Phillip Rivers today against the Patriots. Man, were there some opportunities to win that game, and he just didn't get it done, man. He didn't get it done, and the weight of the team being on his shoulders is just way too heavy. He's got to have a running game. At this point of his career, he's got to have a running game, and with Melvin Gordon III having turf toe, it really hurt him in this game because I thought the run game could have worked against the Patriots, and there were some opportunities that they missed in that game. And, yeah, Ben, Eli, Phillip, all of those guys have seen their best football already, pass them by. And now, you know, of those three, the only guy that has a legit shot to win is Ben, and it's because of those three quarterbacks, he's got the best team around him. He's got an elite defense, an elite running back, and he's still got one of the game's best receivers, and he's got an up-and-coming young stud in Juju Smith-Schuster. So they did a really good job of building that roster in Pittsburgh to where, you know, Ben doesn't have to carry the load, whereas in New York and in Los Angeles with the Chargers, both of those quarterbacks are required to carry their football teams, and at this point of their careers, they're not capable of doing that. Livewire B says, it amazes how the Steelers continue to find diamonds in the rough at skill positions. It's crazy. I was knocking Juju Smith-Schuster in the draft. I didn't think he was a first-round pick, and he didn't go in the first round. But where the Steelers got him, they got a steal, you know. And I remember saying, I hope the Cowboys draft him. He's not good enough. And I'm glad the Cowboys didn't draft him because that would have been another receiver that, you know, we would have had to deal with for the next decade. And I'm not looking forward. I wouldn't have been looking forward to that. It's bad enough we got to deal with Wentz and Dak for the next decade and throw in Zeke Elliott, and it's a problem already in the division as it is. This guy is good, man. He's really good. Sean Mack says, my Browns haven't given up a 100-yard rusher this season. Not even the Killer Bees could do anything against us. Pittsburgh is making the divisional round at least. Yeah. I mean, I remember that was week 1, though, when you guys beat them 21-18. Brown ate you up, though. They may not have been able to. And remember, it's a different Le'Veon Bell now than it was then. Okay, you got no preseason, no camp work Le'Veon Bell in week 1. He was rusty for the first 3 weeks of the season. He didn't start finding his legs until about week 4. So I'd imagine the next time you see him, you may get 100 put on your head on the ground. We'll see. But I've said the Browns defensively are a much better football team. And we saw that in the preseason. We saw glimpses of what this Browns defense could be, but we knew the offense was going to be the problem, and it has been. Pepe, the YouTuber, says, Texans broke my heart, but Astros currently making me happy anyways. What's up, y'all? What's good? I can't wait to watch that game. Who would have thought? 41-38 shootout in Seattle. Man, Deshaun Watson is kicking ass. Dark Sealer 1995 says, this Steelers defense is legit. They keep stuffing the red zone after red zone attempt, and they didn't even have Tuitt playing. When he comes back, this front seven is dominant. The Steelers are just absolutely so good defensively. They're so fun to watch. Ginger Callum says, Mike Hilton is number 31. He's been incredible. There you go, Hilton. All I got to do is remember the hotel, man. This guy has been phenomenal, man. Every game I watch him, I'm like, because it's easy to fall into the trap of not learning a slot guy's name because the slot guys are unheralded. You look at Jacksonville, and they've got Colvin in the slot, and he's just tearing it up, And that's the problem, is when you have problems going on the outside against teams, then teams say, you know what, don't worry about it. We'll just go and attack your slot guy. And if you don't have a quality slot corner, you get beat. Well, that's why Jacksonville's so good, because if you try to go after Colvin in the slot, he's like, you better go outside with that. And the outside dude's like, man, you better go inside with that. And they're like, man, they can't come here. And they're like, well, he can't come here. And then they're like, damn, got to hold on to the rock. And next thing you know, you're getting sacked 10 times in a game. Steelers, Hilton is the same way. I mean, it's tough on the outsides. It's not as good as Jacksonville. That's why I think the Jags are currently the best defense in the league, because they can get after your quarterback. And their corners are absolute lockdown on the outside between Ramsey and A.J. Boye. That's lockdown. You don't lock down, throw away the key. But this Steelers team has the ability to go 3 deep at the cornerback position across the board and make it tough on you. And I think the Steelers found one in Mike Hilton, and I don't even know where they got this guy from. So that's impressive. Reese says, side note, those Lions uniforms are sweet. I said that after week 1. I said even the road unis, when they wear white, is dope. Nike did a good job with that, and the idea to take the black out of the uniform was genius on their part. I think those Lion out uniforms they're clean. They're clean, absolutely. Sean Mack said, Pittsburgh defense is led by Buckeyes, Hayward and Shazier. If they go down, it's a whole different look. Anytime Shazier goes down, this defense suffers. He's in the lineup, it changes things dramatically, because it changes what they can do schematically as a defense because of his versatility, his ability to blitz, his ability to chase running backs and tight ends out of the backfield, his ability to pattern match and drop in his own coverage. It's incredible, and it just allows them to do a number of different things defensively. And so, it's huge when Shazier is in the lineup. Dart Sealer 1995 says, Joe Hayden looks resurrected in Pittsburgh. I think him being in a winning environment motivated him to get back to who he was before the injuries. Look, it's tough to continue to go out and play with the same mindset when you're in a losing environment year in, year out. Look, as a professional, it's your job. You need to go out and execute. But at the same time, it's tough. It wears on you. Losing is tough. It wears on you. Joe Hayden getting out was like a breath of fresh air. And that's why he wanted to go to Pittsburgh. You can't tell me that there weren't more opportunities for more money out there for Joe Hayden. Are you kidding me? The Steelers weren't the highest bidder, and they weren't the best situation for him monetarily. But it was he knew what that organization was about. This wasn't about getting back at the Browns twice. The Browns stink. He doesn't have to go to Pittsburgh to get back at the Browns twice a year. There was no vendetta. I got to get back at the Browns. I'm going to stay in the division. No, it was, I know that's a winning outfit over there in Pittsburgh. I want to be a part of a winner because I've never been a part of that in my career. I know where to go to do that. And it's not far away from home. So I get to stay in the division. I get to stay in the Midwest. And I know what I'm getting myself into. And oh, by the way, I get to win. It's a win-win. So yeah, it's absolutely a good look for him. Cloud says the Lions can't beat good teams. They beat the Vikings. For what it's worth, it wasn't pretty. They had a ton of injuries in that game, did the Vikings. I don't care. 14-7, they won. So I won't say they can't beat good teams because the Vikings have only lost twice this year. One of those losses, albeit family business, did come at the hands of the Lions in Minnesota. So I retract that statement for you. Reese says, we may not even get to 7-9, Lou. I'd shut Jameis down with his shoulder injury, throw in the towel. Maybe too early to throw in the towel, but I told you that I didn't have high hopes for your team this year. And you tried to sell me a dream a couple of times, and I had to shut you down. But, you know, that's what fans do. You don't want to believe until it's too late. And it sucked that it had to happen to you this way, but the curse of Ryan Fitzpatrick is real, and I tried to warn you. If Ryan Fitzpatrick is on your team, he's going to start a game at some point, which means your starter is going to get injured. Jameis doesn't get injured. Ryan Fitzpatrick enters your locker room, Jameis gets injured. It's not a coincidence. Too many moving parts for this team to just take the next step. It takes continuity and confidence. One thing that you were lacking was continuity, and with that lack of continuity comes a lack of confidence because you're not going to win ball games because of the lack of continuity. It's a vicious cycle. Dark Sealer 1995 says, when the Lions got to the red zone, they just bent over and took it up the cooter. As in Jim Bob Cooter. Stop your nonsense, Dark Sealer, man. Stop. Reed says, I hope we tank and enter the Saquon Bark. Stop, Reed. Not you too, man. Don't start talking that tank nonsense with me, man. You know how I feel about that. Don't do that. Dark Sealer 1995 says, it's scary seeing how many weapons there are on the Steelers. Even without Bryant and Vance McDonald, the Steelers had guys open. Ben just needs to be more accurate. It is what it is. I just think Ben is in the twilight years of his career. And, you know, he's going to miss some open receivers. He's just got to live with it. But when he gets opportunities and he hits, they could be a scary team. Cloud says, are they still sitting T's Tabor? I haven't seen them. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So, you know, it'd be one thing if they were struggling like the Colts, lacking talent, and you're sitting Quincy Wilson because he doesn't play special teams, which is what I've been told. But they're talented in the secondary in Detroit, and if he can't get on the field because they're talented, then he can't get on the field because they're talented. Mondraw says, does anybody need to be fired on the Lions staff? I love Terrell Austin, so no there. Jim Bob Cooter, I don't think he needs to be fired, but I do think he needs to reevaluate what he does and how he tries to get the football to certain guys in certain situations, mainly the red zone. Theo Riddick is too big of a weapon, too big of an asset to not touch it in the red zone a little bit more often. The guy's a winner. One-on-one on routes against any linebacker in this league, I'll take Theo Riddick for 200, please. So I think he just needs to reevaluate how he gets the football to some of these playmakers once things become condensed in the red zone. You know, Golden Tate, get some blockers out in front of him and throw him a hitch or a screen. See if you can't win that way. Run a pick play for Golden Tate. A couple of slants, have him running an out-breaking route, send him in motion, then send him back across the motion, hauling ass, snap the ball, 2 slants. He comes up underneath that and throw it to him quick and see if he can't turn up and be a menace with the ball in his hands and get in the end zone. There are ways to create matchups that you can win. I just don't see them doing that in the red zone. But I don't think anybody needs to be fired right now. They go Rhea again with that T's Tabor nonsense. Vincent Cole says, can you address the Darius trade to the Jags tomorrow when you're making the video for the Bills game? Thanks, bro. Yeah, I'll definitely talk about that. We saw that one coming. That was coming a mile away. I had heard rumblings about him getting traded and how the Bills were so disappointed in his play. And, you know, they just gave him the extension a couple of years ago, that 7-year, $108 million extension. And so for that type of money and the performance that they were getting, they were really disappointed. And you got to remember, it was another organization. It was another front office that gave him that deal. We'll talk about it, though. We'll talk about it. Sean Mack says, Bell was going to piss hot. That's why he held out. Maybe, maybe not. That wasn't why he held out. You do know this, right? You know it was because if I sign my franchise tag, I have to report. If I don't sign it, I don't have to be there. I don't have to go through the hot tour-a-days, or I don't have to go through practices. I can stay in shape on my own. I don't have to go through the rigorous preseason, none of that stuff. I don't need it. I don't need the wear and tear on my body. I don't need to be there. If they don't want to pay me the bucks, I don't need to be there. But you never know. Dark Sealer 1995 says, I like Sean Mack, but you can't talk smack about the Steelers when the Browns Super Bowl is just winning a game and not embarrassing themselves every week. I'm going to let you and Sean Mack talk trash about that. Vegeta's Dark Side says, do you agree with the call on third down to run instead of going for the first down? And that I haven't seen the game, so I can't have that discussion with you. But you feel free to come back and chop it up with me when I actually do that video, because obviously by that point I would have seen the game and I would know what you were talking about. Because I make it a habit of not watching highlights. I just want to watch the game. I don't want to watch highlights. I don't want to know what's going to happen before it happens. I prefer to just watch the game and see it for myself. So Reese says, when we played the Vikings, they gave me a really bad feeling. Hashtag puns rock. I can't with you, Ree. I can't. Edgar Vargas says, Juju couldn't be any hotter right now. No. I mean, hell, his bike was a hot topic of discussion. I actually found myself entrenched in hashtag find Juju's bike. Okay, I found myself entrenched in that whole ordeal. So, yeah, he couldn't be hotter right now. You're right. On the field and off the field, Juju Smith-Schuster couldn't be any hotter right now. Sean Mack says, I don't blame Hayden for going to Pittsburgh. I blame Sashi for continuing to be an idiot and cutting much-needed veteran leadership. It happens. Sean Mack says, I like Terrell Austin. For my Browns' next head coach, your thoughts on Austin? I love Terrell Austin. I think he's got the mentality of an NFL head coach, and I think it's only a matter of time before he gets a job. I like him a lot. I like his mentality. I like his mindset. And I like his intensity, and I like the fact that he's young. He can relate to the younger players. You know, when you get these older coaches, sometimes there's a disconnect between them and the young players. You get a younger guy can relate to the vibe and the movement that's going on. Players love playing for coaches that can relate. You know, that's why Pete Carroll gets the most out of his players all the time, because Pete, even though Pete's an older guy, Pete can relate. And they love that about Pete. You know, the thing you always hear out of Seattle is Pete allows us to be us. You know, they don't force us to try to fit into a box. They allow us to be ourselves in Seattle. And I think Mike Tomlin is the same way. I mean, how much theatrics do you see go on in a Steelers game, whether it's an end zone celebration, something on the sidelines? But at the end of the day, they know Mike Tomlin will tighten their ass up if need be. Go ask Martavis Bryant. Okay, he didn't play any games, but he allows those guys to be who they are. And because he's a younger coach, there's a relationship between him and his players that extends past the field, and that forces guys to want to run through a wall for you. And I think Terrell Austin is another one of these young guys that just gets it. And it's a reason why the Lions defensively are usually pretty good. It's not a coincidence that Terrell Austin, it can be traced back to him as a defensive backs coach, to being the defensive coordinator. This defense, they play ball, and they play ball for Terrell Austin. Edgar Vargas says, Ben don't have it anymore, but once he recalibrates his role and dials it down, they'll be good. I think that's what he's starting to realize is, look, I'm not the guy that could put the team on his back and throw it 51 times for 417 yards and 4 touchdowns. I don't have that in me anymore. But what I can do is pick my spots, you know, move the sticks, and when a big shot opportunity comes, I got to hit it, like the Juju Smith-Schuster opportunity. He missed some opportunities early in the game, but when that one came, he didn't miss, and that was arguably the biggest play offensively in the game. Sean Mack says, only 200 on your boy, ND boy Riddick. Where's the love, bro? I love Riddick, man. But if I would have took for 400 or 600, it would have been a daily double, man. Then you would asking me to double down. I can't do that. Let's see. Now we're at Vegeta's Dark Side. Golden Tate, he can magically make a catch, do flips, and at the end of it all, he drops it like it's hot. That was a bad turnover there. Both teams had some really bad turnovers. The Steelers had 2 turnovers as they were going to get points. One cost them right before the half, and that ended up turning into Lions field goal right before the half. So that was like a 6 to 10 point swing there. Golden Tate's catching and fumble. Wow, that was huge. Probably would have ended up in a field goal attempt anyway, but still, you can't have those types of mistakes if you want to beat a good team like Pittsburgh. Cloud says, I don't know, don't you believe in tanking? I know you don't believe in tanking because the players don't want to lose, but tanking does happen, usually by front offices going into rebuilds. But this is the thing. Tanking can't take place in, to me, any sport really but basketball. Because in football, these guys are so hungry for an opportunity. And this is the thing. Like, when have you ever seen a football team actually tank? Like, front office can try all they want. But how are you going to tank? If your quarterback's healthy, if your running back's healthy, if your receivers are healthy, how are you really tanking? Guys just aren't performing well. But how are you really tanking? In the NBA, you can do like the Phoenix Suns did last year and sit half of your roster and play a bunch of young guys and just use the excuse, we're building for the future. So you sit Tyson Chandler and you sit Bledsoe and you sit all of your veterans that can actually help you win games and play a bunch of bums and young guys that are going to blow games and lose against better teams. And that's how you tank. You can't do that in the NFL. Because every week that Matthew Stafford's healthy, he's going to play regardless if the Lions are 3-6, 3-9, or 9-3. He's going to play. And he's going to play and try to win. So I feel like tanking is really hard in the NFL versus basketball, where you can literally say, nope, these guys aren't playing, come up with some lame excuse and shut them down for the season, and voila, you got what you need to be one of the worst teams in the league. I don't buy it, and I'm not a fan of it. Vincent Cole says, Russell Wilson top 5. T. Little says, Dallas got that dub, satisfying Sunday. Yeah, saw that one coming a mile away. T. Littles also says, I'm going to hop into picking games. Got to take over. Yeah. Let's talk more action, man. We waiting. We there. We'll see when you come, if you come, and show up. Pause. Corey Fitterman says, man, fam, I'm sick off the loss to the Cowboys, but holla at you on Tuesday. Sick of the Redskins fans blaming Kirk for the loss. I mean, if you're blaming Kirk for that, then I don't know what you're watching. So I wasn't sick to my stomach because I saw it coming. You can only be sick when either you were close or you didn't see it coming. You got blindsided. Saw that one coming a mile away. We were too banged up. Dark Sealer 1995 says, my cooter hurt after watching the Lions lose this week. Y'all are killing me tonight. T. Little says, hate to say it, but the Eagles look good. I think we've established that the Eagles look good for quite some time now. Eagles are a really good football team. And the thing about it is they remind me of Carolina in 2015, where the expectations weren't as high for them, and they began to win. And as the wins continued to stockpile, the confidence continued to grow. And I told you, winning begets confidence. Confidence begets winning. It's a vicious cycle, vicious, flavor, delicious, poetic scripture. And when it continues to go in that circle, all it does is build more confidence. And more confidence breeds more winning. And more winning breeds more confidence. And all of a sudden, this team believes they can't lose. And so the only thing now that I'm waiting for from the Eagles, the only thing that they haven't done is they haven't had that one comeback where they are down like 10 with 6 minutes left in the game, and they're down 17 in the third quarter and they mount a furious comeback. That's the one thing that they need to cap off this season. If they can get one of those come from behind victories, that's going to put them into a mindset of, even if we're down, we can still come back and win. They haven't had that yet, so I don't know if they think that way yet. Reese says, think Ndamukong Suh is gone from Miami? I don't know. I don't know. Who's going to want to pick up that money that he's owed? We'll see. Thought we'd be doing the Eagles what the Eagles are doing. I told you weren't ready to do with the Eagles. They did a really good job of building around Wentz, but I looked at that team, and no one expected the Eagles to do what they're doing right now. Not many people thought the Eagles would be doing what they're doing right now. But The difference with the Eagles team is you saw what they could be with Wentz last year if they just had more targets, more pieces around him. You saw what they could be. And you just said, man, Wentz doesn't have a lot of help. The difference between them and your team is that, their front seven, or at least their defensive line, is elite. Yours is not. So you can't run on the Eagles. They get after your quarterback. They make it tough on you. That's number one, something that your team doesn't do. And then Wentz takes care of the ball, something that Jameis doesn't do. And I talked about that with you a number of times. That fumble that Jameis had today when he was trying to throw, when he was already wrapped up and he's trying to throw it and he fumbles, that's stupid. That's losing football. And that's something you won't get out of Wentz. Sean Mack says, preach, bro. I love Terrell Austin. Couldn't understand why we didn't interview him before hiring Jackson. We all thought the Jackson hire was great. So I'm not going to sit here and second guess it. He's just not doing a great job. Sean Mack also says, he's talking to my man, Ree. Eric Villa says, Texans have now lost to two good teams by 3 points. I'm pissed. Yeah, because there are no moral victories, but it allows you to know that you can compete with some of the best in the league, for sure. Sean Mack says, Colts did to Luck. How do you go with Curtis Painter as your quarterback for a season? Remember, they didn't have a choice. Remember, Peyton Manning was down that entire year with the neck. So it's not like they felt like we're a quarterback away from competing. You know, what were they going to do? Go out and trade for somebody? No, you go with your backup quarterback. You hope that he can win you some games. And if he doesn't, then you say, here's the silver lining. Now we're in a position to draft Andrew Luck. It worked out for him, but trust me, had they won 4 games, they wouldn't have been mad. They would have just took Robert Griffin III. Vincent Coach says, peace out, bro. Got that bio midterm tomorrow. Looking forward to your great videos after, though. No doubt, man. I'll be here. They'll be here. Thanks for joining me tonight. Dark Siddle 1995 says, I think the NFL should go to a lottery system so that if you do suck, it doesn't guarantee a top pick. Kind of hard to do, though. Then you get all the conspiracy talk like you do in the NBA, because there's really no way of knowing, how they achieve they tell you, yep, well, we got X amount of lottery balls and this team has X amount of % chance of doing it, but you just never know how, because we don't get to see the process. So I don't know. Cloud says, you're right about basketball. My Sixers did that with Ben Simmons last year. You mean 2 years ago? Simmons sat out last year. But yeah. Or whatever. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to do in basketball. T. Little says, I know all about your QB getting unfair criticism. I mean, fans are going to be fans, and once they're thinking one way, it is what it is. It's hard to change their mind. He said, Sean Mack says, did your Monarchs come back against NTU on Saturday? I forgot to check. No, I told you they weren't. They lost 41-38, I think. 41 or 42-38. I told you they weren't coming back. John Perez says, if Roger Goodell had balls, he would push Dan Snyder to sell the Redskins to someone who wants to win. He's ruined the franchise long enough. He needs to go. That's every NFL entity is its own entity. It's in 32 individual businesses. Roger Goodell isn't in control of any of these individual businesses. He can't do a damn thing. Daniel Snyder owns the Redskins, and you may not agree with Daniel. I don't have a problem with Daniel Snyder. We made a lot of him coming in, and early on, I thought he wanted to win too much, so to a fault that he did some things that were very irrational, going out and getting old players and spending a whole bunch of money frivolously. He's taken a step back. He's let the football guys make the decisions. We just haven't been able to win. It's sort of like trying to put all the blame on Kirk Cousins. Can't put all the blame on Dan Snyder. Some of it he is to blame, absolutely, but it's a very small percentage at this point. Dark Steeler 1995 says, To me, the most important part of the Steelers' win was seeing Bryant on the sideline realizing this team doesn't need you to win. That was the statement that Mike Tomlin made, which is nobody's bigger than the team. That's what good teams do. They don't allow one player to be bigger than the team. And sometimes you got to sit a dude down to make him realize that. Reese says, that man Todd Bowles is working his ass off. I already said Todd Bowles, even if the Jets don't win another game, he needs to have at least one first-place vote. Sean Mack says, they were all ready to move on from Manning and then literally lucked into luck. That's how it happens sometimes. Sean Mack says, NBA rigged it for Knicks to get Ewing. That's what that was the urban legend, is that's how that happened. But you can't, that's the problem with the lottery, is that you can't tell. And that leaves the door open in the discussion to be had about conspiracies and things being rigged and all of that stuff. T. Little says, where do you go to pick? You got to go to my discussion board on my YouTube channel page. So go to my YouTube page, go to the discussion tab, and you leave your picks there. Corey Fitterman says, funny what you said about the Suns. I live out here in Phoenix, and the fans was heated when that happened. LOL. That's how it is, man. But that's what they do in the NBA. You know what I mean? So, John Perez says, could we see David Shaw from Stanford come to the NFL if the Colts and Panthers job come open at the end of the year because of his connections to McCaffrey and Luck? More so Indy than McCaffrey. I mean, he loves McCaffrey, but he doesn't love him that much to come to the NFL to coach him. The Panthers, to me, have more of a team that David Shaw would be more inclined to coach, because David Shaw loves to play it close to the vest. He would much rather run it 40 times and beat you 13-10 than, have a wide open offense featuring Andrew Luck. But that being said, I don't know if Shaw wants to leave Stanford. That's been a rumor going around for like 2 or 3 years now, and he still hasn't left. Maybe he's waiting for the right opening. Sometimes I always question, if you've got a great job in college football, you're not being threatened to be pushed out the door, and you're one of those guys that can be around at the same program for 20, 25, 30 years. Unless there's an itch that you have to scratch that says, I want to be the best and I need to coach in the best league, why would you leave a good job like Stanford to come to the NFL, where you have less time to yourself, less time with your family, more of a strain, and if you don't get it done, you can get fired at any time? Why would you? I mean, that's like the whole Mike Krzyzewski and Coach K dilemma at Duke for all these years. Everybody wants them to come to the NBA. For what? When I coach at Duke and I've got this great job, I've got this great life, I've got everything I could ask for. Like, Saban's not leaving Alabama. He realized when he left LSU the first time and went to the NFL, he realized, I wanted to coach in the NFL once upon a time, but I don't want all of the strain and all of the things that come with being an NFL head coach. I'd much rather coach college football. It's a lot easier, a lot less stressful. And oh, by the way, I got a lot more time to myself. So if I've got a comfy college job, if I'm like, I've already heard rumors of Jim Harbaugh coming back to coach the Colts. Andrew Luck, his ex-team, and his he's an ex-Stanford guy, and all of that stuff. Why? Why would I leave Michigan? Now, they're pretty bad this year, and but they're not gonna fire Jim Harbaugh. Why would you leave? Like, I don't get that stuff. Anyway, Dark Soul of 1995 says the Bills are the most impressive team this year. I mean, 5 games won already. That's crazy considering the talent. It's a mindset. It's a culture change in Buffalo. We're going to talk about that more. I've already talked about it a ton of times already this year, but Reese says, I figured Deshaun Jackson would be the first one to jump to the blame train, Lou, but it's been the opposite. He's trying to keep us together. Sounds good, but, I mean, bottom line is, if you're not winning games, you're not winning games. And he'll turn eventually. If he's not getting the rock and y'all keep losing, trust me, it's coming. Captain Spartan 04 says, did my Steelers get a good win or was it sluggish? I didn't watch it. had to work. No, it was a good win. It was sloppy at times, some turnovers by the Steelers, some missed opportunities by the Steelers, but that defense stepped up huge in this game. And that was the biggest takeaway from this game. On the offensive side, Juju Smith-Schuster with 7 catches for a $193 and a huge 97-yard touchdown. And third down conversion at the end to ice it. So he was massive in this game. And the defense with a big red zone stop after red zone stop, goal line stand, a red zone stop at the end to help preserve the lead, and forcing the Lions to kick 5 field goals and not allowing them into the end zone the entire game. So, no, it was a good win by your Steelers. Well, that's it. Going to call it a night. Thank you guys for joining me on the program. Steelers get the win 20-15 over the Lions. Improve to 6-2 as they head into their bye week as one of the best teams in the AFC conference, one of the best teams in the league for that matter. Meanwhile, the Lions come off of a bye and just can't get it done on the offensive side of football. Same problems they were having prior to the bye, they're having post-bye as they don't get it done in the red zone when it matters most. Golden Tate with a huge turnover, too many mistakes to win. I thought that Jim Caldwell made some questionable decisions and ended up biting his team in the cooter, as everyone has been saying tonight, as they dropped this game 20-15, dropped to 3-4 on the season. 3 straight losses now on the season for the Lions after starting 3-1 in this season. And so that's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Sunday Night Football Overtime. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me so I can see you break down anything and everything. The National Football League. I will see you guys tomorrow. Lockdown coverage all day long. And, of course, Monday Night Football Overtime to put an exclamation point on week number 8 in the National Football League. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your night. And I'll see you bright and early for lockdown coverage. Until then, I'm your man Louie T.